Everyone, let's talk about why Bitkey, the best place to store Bitcoin for the long term, matters so much. And I want to use my own personal experience that I am experiencing right now as an example of why Bitkey is so important. So, I have a charitable giving foundation where I donate money to all sorts of causes that me and Rachel care about. And back in 2022, that charitable giving foundation had been depleted significantly because we had been giving away a lot of the money in it faster than was sustainable. So as a solution to that, I put a little more than half of the assets that remained in that charitable giving account in Bitcoin back in 2022. The average price of the Bitcoins I was buying at that time were $22,000 per coin. So Bitcoin obviously went from $22,000 per coin to now $101,000 per coin. So all of the Bitcoin that's in that account is somewhere between quadrupled and quintupled in value. So as a result of that, I am now starting to give away Bitcoin to charitable organizations so that they can start their own Bitcoin strategic reserves and just have a sort of a long-term Bitcoin strategy. Well, when I set up that charitable giving foundation, I set it up with a Bitcoin account at a major company that does that sort of thing. I'm not going to use the name of the company, but it's one of the, it's one of the big ones. It's one of the top five in the world and, reputable organization, all of that. Anyway, I created this nonprofit account. So creating an institutional account for Bitcoin is a lot harder than a personal account. With a personal account, you just, verify your identity with your driver's license or passport, and, there's not that much to it. But an institutional account, there's a lot more to it. You have to submit the articles of incorporation and the shareholder agreement and a list of beneficial owners. And anyway, there's a bunch of paperwork. So I went through that process to create the account back in 2022, and it took like 2 or 3 months. Not that I was actively doing stuff the whole time. It's just I kept having to track down one more piece of paperwork, one more piece of paperwork, one more piece of paperwork. I had to invite my lawyer that set up the foundation to, submit documents to the portal. It was just a pain. The whole thing was a pain. So I buy the Bitcoin back then, and it's just been sitting there for the last 2.5 years. But it's quadrupled almost. It's up almost 5x from 22,000 a coin to 101,000. One second. Okay, so I decide I'm going to start donating the Bitcoin that's in that account to various organizations. And so I make the first commitment to an organization that I'll send them some Bitcoin as a donation to, because it's an organization I've been supporting for a long time. So I go in the account and I tell it to send Bitcoin, and it won't. It says that the account has restrictions on it to avoid, scams and to avoid illicit use or whatever else like that. So I cannot send Bitcoin. Now, I can buy Bitcoin. I can liquidate the Bitcoin, meaning I can sell the Bitcoin for US dollars. So I can do everything in the world I want to with that Bitcoin except send it. And the whole point of having Bitcoin is so that you can actually use it. You can send it. You can move it from one place to another. But this organization that has the account will not let me send the Bitcoin. So I reached out to their technical support and I said, what's the problem? This account's been working great for 2 years now. I actually want to send some Bitcoin. Like, why can't I send Bitcoin? And they said, well, you need to do ID verification. So I went through the whole process for ID verification, and then it still didn't work. So they came back and said, well, it turns out that when the account was created, the accounts start out as individual accounts, and then our institutional review team reviews the accounts, and then if we approve it, then you can open an institutional account, but your account, you opened a personal account, not an institutional account. Well, I then submitted them all the paperwork and all the screenshots showing that I had indeed opened an institutional account, that I had indeed submitted all the paperwork and all of that. So after I submitted all that, which requires me to track down all this paperwork and stuff like that, I submitted the paperwork, and they came back and were like, okay, well, now you've done ID verification, which obviously they told me to do and it didn't work. Then they told me I had applied for the wrong kind of account, and when I sent in all the verification. Then they came back and said, well, actually, you did apply for an institutional account, just like you said you did, but your institutional account was never approved, and so it remained a personal account. It's for the institution, so there's no problems there. But they're like, we can't upgrade it to an institutional account, which will let you send. And normal, individual accounts let you send, and institutional accounts will let you send Bitcoin. But apparently, an account will not let you send Bitcoin if it's in the process of being upgraded from a personal account to an institutional account, which is ridiculous. So, anyway, they said, well, the solution is you need to create a new institutional account. Well, I don't want to create a new institutional account. It took me forever to track down all the paperwork to create the institutional account in the first place. And the Bitcoin is all sitting there. And it's supposed to be my Bitcoin earmarked for charitable purposes. It is not that hard. It is not that hard. So I have gone back and forth with this organization for a month now. It always takes them 3, 4, 5 days or even 2 weeks to respond every time I email the support organization. I've gone back and forth for weeks trying to get them to let me send my Bitcoin to an organization. Now, my personal account works great. My debit card works great. Everything else works great. It's just this one organization that is doing the custody for this nonprofit. This one organization in my Bitcoin world is the only thing that is not working beautifully right now. Okay, so what is the solution for this? Well, they keep saying the solution is that I open a new account, but the problem is if I open a new account, I have to sell the Bitcoin. I have to wire the money from the old account in fiat currency, which is US dollars, to the new account, and then I have to rebuy the Bitcoin. I don't want to do that. Not only do I not want to go track down all the paperwork to create a new account, I also don't want to have to liquidate the Bitcoin because as I posted previously, in the last 10 years, if you missed out on the 24 best hours, the two best 24-hour periods in any given year, your return in that year in aggregate would be zero. So I absolutely do not want to liquidate the Bitcoin for even 5 minutes while I move it between accounts. And what I want them to do is I want them to enable sends on the accounts so I can send the Bitcoin just like I'm supposed to be able to. So what is the solution here? Well, they say the solution is create an entirely new institutional account, which is going to take forever, liquidate the Bitcoin back to fiat, transfer it to the bank account of the new entity, and then rebuy the exact same Bitcoin I already own with the exact same money that's already in Bitcoin. That is a ridiculous solution to this problem. So what I should have done, which I couldn't at the time because Bitkey does not exist, what I should have done is bought the Bitcoin and immediately transferred it to Bitkey. Because Bitkey does not have this problem. When you own when you own Bitcoin on Bitkey, you own it 100%. There is nobody in the world that can stop you from sending your Bitcoin to anywhere you want to send it. There's no approval process it has to go through. There's nobody that can put your account in anti-scam mode, which, disallows you to send Bitcoin. There's nobody that can tell you that your Bitkey device is a personal Bitkey device versus an institutional Bitkey device. There's no way the paperwork can be lost in translation. And there's no way to get stuck in a no man's land like I am right now with this old legacy Bitcoin account. With Bitkey, you own your Bitcoin 100%. Now, Bitkey did not exist when I created this account. Otherwise, I would have created the account, bought the Bitcoin, and immediately moved it to Bitkey. That's exactly what I would have done, but I could not do that because Bitkey did not exist. It had not yet been released at the time I did this. If it had, that Bitcoin would be sitting on Bitkey, and it would be super simple because I'd be able to send it to anyone I want, anytime, anywhere in the world. Super straightforward, but it did not exist. And because it did not exist, I left the Bitcoin where it was in the custody of this organization that is custodying the account. Now, the Bitcoin is safe. It's not like anything's going to happen to it. It's just I don't have access to it right now. And if it was on Bitkey, I would have access to it because if it was on Bitkey, nobody in the world would be able to take it away from me or block me from using it or put my account on hold or suspend my account temporarily. None of that would be possible on Bitkey, but that is possible if you have your Bitcoin on any centralized exchange, even the ones I recommend. So if your Bitcoin is on there, you can wake up one day and find out you don't have access to it. If your Bitcoin Now, again, there's always a resolution process, so it's not like I'm worried. The Bitcoin is 100% mine. You know, they'll let me send it and they will let me liquidate it to US dollars right now. The problem is I don't want to do that with this old charitable giving account. I don't want to liquidate it to US dollars. I want to send it in Bitcoin form to charitable organizations that are expecting donations in Bitcoin from me. That's what I want to do. And if that Bitcoin was already in Bitkey, I would be able to do that right now and nobody could stand in my way. But as it is, I'm stuck at the moment where I cannot yet send that Bitcoin, and I'm stuck in an endless loop where they want me to create a new account before I can send it. I do not want to create a new account. I also do not want to liquidate the Bitcoin and move it over to a new account. Anyway, so all the more reason that if you have any meaningful, substantial amount of Bitcoin, do not leave it on a centralized exchange. That's what they're called, centralized exchanges. The biggest centralized exchanges in the world are Coinbase, Binance, Bitfinex, BitMEX, and there. What's another? Bitstamp. Anyway, those are probably some of the big ones. Gemini. Some of the smaller ones are Gemini, Kraken, and stuff like that. If you have your Bitcoin on those locations, that doesn't mean it's not safe. It just means it's not 100% in your control. And if I had moved that Bitcoin to Bitkey, then it would be 100% in my control, and I would not be having these headaches where they want me to create a new account before they will let me send it. So please go buy yourself a Bitkey device, move between 70% and 90% of whatever Bitcoin you own over to the Bitkey device, and you will never have to worry about somebody blocking you from sending your Bitcoin when you want to. And as an extra plus, it's actually safer and more secure on Bitkey than it is in a centralized exchange. It's harder for hackers to get a hold of, harder for scammers to get a hold of. Bitkey is just a better all-around place to store Bitcoin for the long haul. Um, Obviously, if you're going to use something like the Coinbase debit card, you've got to leave some Bitcoin on there because that's what the debit card uses. It liquidates that Bitcoin as you spend it. But for long-term storage of Bitcoin, whatever Bitcoin you don't think you're going to need in the next year or two, move it over to Bitkey where you have 100% total control. Nobody can block your account, suspend your account, or put it in a purgatory that mine somehow ended up with this charitable giving account where I can't send it. So anyway, Bitkey is super important. Get one, use it. That is the way Bitcoin was intended to be stored for the long haul, and you will avoid the ending up in a no man's land like I have with this charitable giving account and the Bitcoin in it. Anyway, hope that helps. Buy a Bitkey. The website is bitkey.world. That's bitkey.world. WORLD. It is the simplest solution in the entire planet. I mean, it is so easy to use. Absolutely anybody on the planet can use it. It was built for everyone. I mean, literally, it was built so that your parents or your grandparents can move their Bitcoin over to it, and it's just that simple. So, highly recommend Bitkey. It is that simple, and it would avoid the no man's land that I am currently in with this old charitable giving account. Thanks, everyone. Buy a Bitkey. Thanks.